We're going to get started. Good morning. We're going to get started. Everyone will take their seat. And if we can hold down your voices. And I also would like to ask if anyone has a device that makes noise, please turn it off or on vibrate or on airport mode. Thank you. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes our friend, the Reverend Bonnie CAMARDA of the Salvation Army. She is here today as a guest of Councilwoman Maria Sanchez. I would ask all members, guests, and visitors to please rise.
Let's just take a minute to recognize that God is in the house. I'm going to ask for a minute of silence. And then no matter in what tradition you sit, some of us are in different traditions of walk with God, that you recognize that it's a God who really wants to reign in the city of Philadelphia. Then let us pause for a minute before I pray. The word in the Old Testament say, it is because of the Lord's mercy and loving kindness that we are not consumed, because his compassion fail not. They are new every morning. Great and abundant is your stability and faithfulness. The Lord is my portion or share, says my living being. Therefore will I hope in him and will expectantly for him. Father, we just pray in this morning that your loving kindness will consume the city of Philadelphia. Lord, you know the challenges that are in each of our neighborhood, the violence that is reigning. Lord, and we just call to just get violence away from our neighborhood, and peace, the peace of God that overpasses all understanding will come and reign. Lord, I pray that every morning we will think that yesterday is gone, but today has come. And because today has come, we are going to invite you, visible, to take every corner of the city. Lord, we just thank you for every city council member that is here, for everyone who is here in this room. And I just pray, Lord, that you will help us help our city official to do the work that you have called them to do. Lord, and that there will be agents of peace, agents of change for our city. We thank you, Lord, and we know that your presence will abide for us as long as we recognize that you are Lord of all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend. We appreciate all of what you do in your spiritual guidance today. Councilor Bediz. Thank you very much. And again, Reverend, thank you for that spiritual guidance. Thank you. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting on Thursday, February 6, 2020, and the chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting on Thursday, February 6, 2020 be approved.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 6, 2020 stand approved. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentlelady. At this time, I would like to dispense with the regular order of business, and I would like to thank everyone who has taken time out of their busy day to come down and witness their government in action. We genuinely appreciate you being here. We hope your stay here today is a knowledgeable one, but more importantly, a pleasurable one, so much so that you come back again. So again, thank you. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim, who will present a resolution honoring Mabel Chan. Would Ms. Chan and those accompanying her please join the councilwoman at the podium? And joining Councilwoman Kim, we have Councilman Heenan, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, Councilman Dom, Councilwoman Brooks, and Councilman Johnson, and Councilwoman Keona Sanchez, Councilman O, and Councilman Green.
Thank you very much, everybody. If you know Philadelphia, and especially if you know Philadelphia.
Councilwoman, hold on 1 second until we get everything. Okay. Please proceed, Councilwoman.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. If you know Philadelphia, and especially if you know Philadelphia Chinatown, there's no name more synonymous with a history of Chinese American Philadelphians in the city than Mabel Chan. We are honored today to honor Mabel and her lasting legacy and contributions to the city of Philadelphia. Mabel came here many decades ago with a dream and a vision for a vibrant, diverse city. She landed in the City of Liberty, and she definitely made it a place where all people could be here and thrive. Her home, the restaurant that she had helped run for decades on end, was Joyce and Lau. And it was often not only a place where there were celebrations and weddings and places of birthday parties and honorees and Lunar New Year celebration that you can't even imagine, where the food was boundless. And for many immigrant communities who often felt that they had to create home, they found it in Mabel's restaurant at Joyce and Lau. It was a place where people could gather, could tell stories, could laugh, could remember, and gain enough strength to build for the days beyond. And it wasn't just a place that Mabel had for the Chinese community and the Chinese American community in Philadelphia. It was a bigger gathering place for politics to talk about the future of what the city could look like, integrated with a vibrant immigrant community that was diversifying and growing even within the Asian American community. Mabel comes from Fujian, And for the folks who may or may not know, the Fujian community has evolved and grown into one of the fastest growing communities here in Philadelphia and on the East Coast. Chinese Americans have many different ethnicities and speak many different dialects. But Mabel made sure to embrace all of it. And I'd like to give just so much gratitude, so much personal gratitude for what she was able to do. The last thing I wanted to share is that Mabel is not only a fantastic businesswoman, an amazing convener of people, a joyous host, and the most generous host in the city of Philadelphia, but she's also an incredible artist. She celebrated Chinese opera, she supported folk arts, locally, keeping cultural traditions alive for immigrant communities that aren't able to see it necessarily on big stages. She made sure that she supported organizations across the city that reminded us of our folk traditions. And for so many communities, Asian American and others, but many who feel that their voices may not be reflected in mainstream culture, she reminded us of what it means to have elders who tell us stories that we're not going to always read in every book. She taught us songs that we aren't going to hear on popular radio. She reminded us of mythologies and folk tales that put people who looked like her and many others as superheroes with superpowers who could overcome the odds. And for that, this community honors you and thanks you from the bottom of our heart and City Council. So with that, we'll start. And I'm so honored to have so many members of City Council supporting this. So this resolution honors Mabel Chi Chan and her lasting legacy and contributions to the Philadelphia community. Whereas Mabel Chan was born in 1957 in Fujian Province, China, as the second oldest daughter in a family of 7 kids, Ms. Chan's family moved to Hong Kong, where she was able to attend the most prestigious secondary high school on a full scholarship. And
whereas Ms. Chan's father immigrated alone to the United States in 1970 in hope of eventually reuniting with the rest of the family. In 1970, after 3 years of nonstop work and with the support of friends, Ms. Chan's father was able to purchase a takeout restaurant on Lehigh Avenue. And
whereas during this time, Ms. Chan had severe appendicitis and was deemed by doctors as unsavable. At the time, Ms. Chan wanted to become a monk after being exposed to Buddhist philosophies. After surviving appendicitis, Ms. Chan decided that she would dedicate her life to doing good deeds. And
whereas in 1974, 4 years after Ms. Chan's father immigrated to the United States, Ms. Chan and her mother reunited with him. The family settled on the second-floor apartment of the takeout restaurant in North Philly that Ms. Chan's father owned. And
whereas 3 years later, Ms. Chan, with the support and blessings from her father, took over the management of her father's restaurant. Ms. Chan worked early mornings and late nights, which allowed her to learn essential management skills for her future. And whereas Ms. Chan and her family longed to move to Chinatown, a noticeably underdeveloped neighborhood given its proximity to Center City, where the Chan family could find a community whose members spoke their language of Cantonese. After 6 years of backbreaking labor, Ms. Chan, her sister, and her father were able to purchase a paper factory warehouse at 1026 Ray Street. The Chan family converted the warehouse into a restaurant named Joy Sin Lao. And
whereas Joyce and Lau officially opened on October 25, 1983, and became a monumental success that influenced business and investment in the Chinatown community. The restaurant is recognized as aiding the Chinatown community to secure its economic footing in Philadelphia. The eatery attracted a host of well-known figures from the Philadelphia community, such as Ed Rendell, Mike Stack, Bob Brady, and Tom Fugliato. And nope, I checked, it's Fugliato.
And whereas Joy Sin Law has always been more than a mere restaurant venue for Ms. Chan, Ms. Chan operated Joy Sin Law as a place for community cultivation for individuals who do not have a sense of belonging anywhere else in the city due to language and cultural barriers. This commitment has made Ms. Chan known as a second sister in the Chinatown community, the big sister who looks out for everyone. And whereas Joy Sin La has also been a starting point for many revered chefs and restaurant owners who have established anchoring institutions in Chinatown, such as Jade Harbor, Yakitori Boy, K-Top, and Ocean City. And
whereas Ms. Chen established a longstanding commitment to her community. For years, the restaurant was a stable source of employment for many students who worked part-time at the restaurant and were provided housing on the 4th floor of the building. Ms. Chan also donates her restaurant's profit to elderly centers in Chinatown, where she also performs traditional Chinese opera and serves bento boxes to elders. In addition, Ms. Chan began the tradition of an annual Chinatown Independence Day celebration banquet and brought the community members together to participate in the parade. And
she is definitely a class act. When you think of Judith Von Zellick in the business community, Joan Krajewski of the Northeast, Marian Taskell of the city, Ms. Chan is that in Chinatown. There is not a conversation where she is not navigating or at the center of or moving forward, and we thank you for that leadership as a woman. I appreciate the role that you play in your community. Whereas Mrs. Chan has used her resources and personal fortune to support victims of domestic violence and to connect crime victims to free legal services. In 2008, following a series of violent incidents in South Philadelphia High School, Mabel took the initiative to hold a meeting of the community leaders to address the persistent issues of bullying against Asian immigrants
And I too want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I've had the opportunity to dine and interact with Ms. Mabel Chen several different times at a restaurant in Chinatown, so the day is truly an honor and a pleasure. Whereas Ms. Chan is a trailblazer in her community and became the first female president of the Chinese Benevolent Association, and in 2007 was appointed as the chairwoman of the association's board, which made tremendous contributions of service to the city of Philadelphia. Whereas Mabel Chan has been credited with uplifting the Chinatown community and has been an integral part of fostering a neighborhood where everyone, regardless of their barriers they face, can thrive.
Mabel Chan's story is that of many Philadelphians, a narrative of people who choose to call the city home and dedicate their lives to improving their neighborhoods through strong communities. Her lasting legacy is deeply intertwined in the history of Philadelphia and that of Chinatown. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Philadelphia honors Mabel Chan and her legacy and contributions to the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And its chair recognizes Ms. Chan for remarks.
I'm really surprised and I'm really happy and I'm really excited and really appreciate it. Thank you everyone and thank you all council members for this great honor. I was the first female member to join the Chinese Hissing Association and also the first female person of CPA. I'm proud to stand here today with Councilwoman Helen Jean and our first Asian American Councilwoman, Helen Jean. And thank you, Councilwoman Helen Jean again. Sorry. And also thank you, Councilman Masquela, our district councilman, and we have all my, and thank you all council members and your friendship and support of our immigrant community. Thank you so much. Thank you all. May I go in to say few words in Chinese for our Chinese members? They are here today. Okay? 親愛嘅我哋各大嘅僑團首長，我嘅親人，各位兄弟姊妹，今日呢個獎呢，應該係屬於你哋嘅，因為冇你哋，我點可以得到獎呢？因為有你哋喺我身邊支持我，所以我會鼓勵自己做得最好。嚟多謝你哋，嚟為我哋僑北去服務。希望我哋大家團結一致，為我哋嘅費城將來做得更好、更進步。我哋將我哋中美友誼更得更好，因為呢美國係我哋多民族嘅國家，我哋要同每一個地方嘅朋友做好朋友。嚟將我哋嘅美國 American make a beautiful American in the future， 將我哋美國做得最好為止。Thank you all our councilmen, councilwoman. Thank you so much. Thank you and Maria too. And they were all everyone. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Biddies. Thank you, and again, congratulations to Ms. Chan. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilman Johnson, who will present a resolution recognizing South Philadelphia rap group Young Flames. Will Chris Giddens and those accompanying him please join the councilman at the podium? And joining Councilman Johnson, we have Councilman Thomas, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, Councilman Jones, and Councilman Green.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. In 1998, I lost a cousin of mine to gun violence in South Philadelphia. And as opposed to me getting involved in the retaliation that was going to take place as a result of him losing his life, I started on my own program to address the issue of gun violence called Peace Not Guns. And from that point, I decided to dedicate my life to teaching young people conflict resolution, anger management, and most importantly, anti-street education. The reason why I'm so inspired by this presentation today is because as a city, we're in a state of a crisis. We are in a state of emergency. On any given day, when you turn on the television, we bear witness to the senseless acts of gun violence taking the lives of predominantly African-American young men. But there is hope. There is joy in my soul because these young men whom I'm about to present a resolution to are doing the right things for the right reasons, inspiring a sense of hope in our neighborhoods, focusing on putting down the guns. And so with that being said, I want to thank my colleagues for joining me as we honor and salute the Young Flames. Give them a real big round of applause. Who created an anti-violence song called Guns Down that specifically focuses on the very critical issue of gun violence that we're dealing with right now as a city. And it's so inspiring by their efforts because as a young man, I think I started my program when I was in my 20s. But the good word says, out of the mouth of babes. And so for me, we want to continue to encourage these young men because they represent truly the best that the city of Philadelphia has to offer. And I also like to say they come from South Philadelphia, and so the P is definitely here in the building. Recognizing South Philadelphia's rap group, the Young Flames, for their positive theme music, including their anti-violence song, Guns Down.
Thank you. And whereas Young Flames began with a group project for music class by 4 students at Universal Institute Charter School, In the 2 years since, the group has grown to comprise 10 members. Safi Johnson, and raise your hand when I call your name. Safi Johnson, Kyer McGee, Khalik McGee, Makai McNeil, Jamil Meadows, Amir Crawford, Jaden Baraski, Bahaj Goodwin, Asir Bagwell, and Tyree Reeves. All 10 members are residents of South Philadelphia and students at Universal Institute Charter School. The group is managed and mentored by Christopher Giddens and
whereas the group's name was derived from a mixtape entitled Flamers by Philadelphia native and rap superstar Meek Mill. Like Meek Mill, the group has blended advocacy for social causes with its music. And
whereas the group's first performance on October 7, 2019 centered around the theme of anti-bullying. Since then, the group has performed and recorded other music with positive messages, including Guns Down, which is my favorite. The song was motivated in part because of some of the families of the members had been infected directly by gun violence. The group's lyrics also advocate against substance abuse and for academic success and personal responsibility. On February 4th, 2020, Philadelphia's local NBC affiliate, Channel 6, aired a segment on the group, prominently featuring Guns Down. They hope to continue to grow their audience and one day be featured on the Ellen Show. And
whereas the group's members are also active in their communities. Among their activities are football with the South Philadelphia Sharks, intramural basketball, and participation in the Alpha Leadership Academy, run by Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And whereas the passion, focus, and positivity mentioned above are a shining example of the positive potential of Philadelphia's youth. Despite the weighty challenges of this time, Young Flames have used music to spread positive messages in their community, an effort that deserves recognition and praise. Now, therefore, be it.
Be it resolved that the Council of the City of Philadelphia, that South Philadelphia's rap group Young Flames be recognized for the positivity and themes in their music, including the anti-violence song Guns Down. Further resolved that an engrossed copy of this resolution presented to the Young Flames be evidence of this council's appreciation and esteem.
So, we're going to do this a little different, right? Because I've been in this chambers on plenty of different times, and when she people come down, and people of high status, we clap, we stand up, you know. Now, again, on any given day, right, we'll turn on the news and we'll see African-American young men being shot down and murdered by gun violence, right? These young men are in the right place, doing the right thing. So I'm going to ask for everyone in the room to please stand and give them a real big round of applause. Council President.
Thank you, sir. The chair recognizes Mr. Giddens for remarks.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Wow is the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this honor. On behalf of the boys, myself, and the entire Young Flames family, I would like to thank every council member, especially Councilman Johnson, who sponsored this resolution and made this happen for us. When one of the boys, Amir, came to me with the idea of Guns Down, I had no idea the impact we could create with this song. The boys each put their heart and soul into every line that they wrote and delivered a message that our city deeply needs. Gun violence has affected many of us in this room, and for a group of kids to have the courage to stand up against this epidemic leaves me completely blown away every time I think about it. Looking at their faces, standing before you today, I'm beyond proud of each and every one of them. Standing up here today, I want to say we need our community to join with us. The nonsense, the violence, the killings, all need to end. Our kids need to see that education and being able to talk through their issues are the right answer, and not succumbing to the pressures many of them face, joining a gang or carrying a gun to solve their problems. Our youth deserve the opportunity to walk to school or walk to the playground without the fear of simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. As a community, there are more of us who live life as we're supposed to than not, and it's time we take our streets back. If our youth can see this and stand up for this, then there's no reason why we as adults cannot do the same. I urge everyone to join these boys and the movement they are creating. Our kids need to see all the positives that we can offer, which is why I started this group to begin with. I know this because mentorship is key. I was that kid who needed a mentor. Let's start doing what we need to do, uplifting our youth, providing them avenues to safe spaces where they can have fun, and most importantly, creating a city that all of us can be proud to live in. I thank you again on behalf of the Young Flames and leave by quoting one of the lyrics from their song. It's a marathon that they're running, and there's no time for gunning. Thank you.
But can they spit?
And last, also, we will be, my office will be giving an activity fund grant in amount of $1,000 to also support our youth and their endeavors and all the things that they're doing as well.
Councilor Biddies. Thank you, and congratulations. An inspirational moment for some awesome young men. Our next order of business is communications, and the chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages to the Chief Clerk from the Mayor. Mr. Decker, can you please read those messages?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am transmitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body an ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill Number 190450, approved July 17, 2019, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan Number 15S by placing on the city plan Alter Street from 17th Street to 18th Street in order to conform more closely with existing conditions, by revising the terms and conditions stated therein and making certain technical changes, and an ordinance authorizing the vacating of Charles Street, also known as Markle Street, between Manayunk Avenue and Dexter Street, and an ordinance amending Subcode F of Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Fire Code to establish limitations on the use of hydrogen fluoride and hydrofluoric acid, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communication?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to welcome the men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated Mu Omega Chapter to Philadelphia City Council. I'd like to ask all the members who are here representing Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated Mu Omega Chapter, who is celebrating their chapter centennial this year, and they're here in support of Resolution 200121, which will name the 1600 to 1700 block of West Jefferson Street as Dr. Oscar J. Cooper Way to honor the life of Oscar James Cooper and his contributions to Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated and the medical community in the city of Philadelphia. He was one of the fraternity's 4 founders and was a charter member of Mu Omega Chapter and served as its first basilisk, or as we know, president, from 1920 to 1922. Please give the men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, who do have a house in the district of my colleague, Councilwoman Cindy Bass, a hand. Thank you so much.
Welcome, and thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate all the awesome work you do out in the neighborhood, particularly in the 5th Councilmatic District, where the street happens to be named after. Thank you. This time, our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one bill on your behalf and one privileged resolution that is authored by all members of council and supported, all the women of council, and supported by all of the members of council.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain portions of land located within an area bounded by Oxford Street, 19th Street, Poplar Street, and 27th Street.
For the committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing and honoring Julia Coker for her dedication to the PHL-CVB and Philadelphia and wishing her luck on her future endeavors.
This week's calendar, chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richards.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I offer no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one bill and one privileged resolution offered by myself as an enlightened man and signed by all women of council.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance authorizing the vacating of Charles Street, also known as Markle Street, between Manayunk Avenue and Dexter Street.
For the committee.
And a Privilege resolution recognizing the 48th anniversary of Title IX of the Educational Amendments of 1972 and its impact on the growth of women who participated in college sports from 29,972 in 1972 to over 221,000 in 2019.
Today's calendar, Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I have two bills, one on your behalf and one privilege resolution. I would like to speak briefly on one of the bills, please.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill Number 190450, approved July 17, 2019, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Revision of Lines and Grades on a Portion of City Plan Number 15S by placing on the city plan Alter Street from 17th Street to 18th Street in order to conform more closely with existing conditions by revising the terms and conditions stated therein.
Further committee.
And an ordinance amending Subcode F of Title IV of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Philadelphia Fire Code to establish limitations on the use of hydrogen fluoride and hydrofluoric acid.
Further committee.
And a non-privileged resolution approving the appointment of Deborah Maller to the board of the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority.
Referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. On behalf of the administration, I introduce a bill banning hydrogen fluoride. That was the key ingredient that was used at the Philadelphia Energy Solutions refinery, which caused the major explosion that rocked the foundation of South Philadelphia, as well as Southwest Philadelphia. The bankruptcy court awarded a company by the name of Hillco the opportunity to develop the Philadelphia Energy Solutions site in the future, and I'm going to be working with the chair of the Environmental Committee, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, in the future to hold hearings to, one, make sure that all environmental issues regarding that site are addressed. Two, there's a smooth transition with the new owner. And three, and most importantly, that the community has a say-so in what the future development of that site and what it looks like, and making sure that there's community engagement, and also the smooth transition of jobs. And I want to make sure that those individuals who lost their jobs under Philadelphia Energy Solutions also have a voice in this process as well. Based upon the proposal that I received and sitting down with the Hillco company, in the future this will be an economic boom to the city of Philadelphia with a projected amount of 10,000 jobs. So I think it's going to be a benefit to our region. I always unfortunately have to remind people, regardless of how much development that we see taking place in the city, we're still the #1 big city when it comes to poverty. Also with people living significantly in deep poverty. So this will be a welcome project to the city of Philadelphia and also the 2nd Councilmanic District. We want to make sure that the community and the workers and the environmentalists have a seat at the table. And so again, myself and chairwoman of the Environmental Committee and myself chairing the Public Utilities Committee will be hosting hearings in the near future on what that transition will look like. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just a little point of clarification and information, and I totally agree with the councilman in his statements and look forward to the conversation. The HFL, hydrofluoride, did not cause the explosion. It was negligence and greed of big business who failed to correct the capital investment and improvement that was much necessary needed. And although that chemical is extremely bad, and I support banning it, right, because, you know, and coming up with an alternative, like an alternative replacement if it ever stays online, but it was the neglect of big business and greed, all right, that put the profits over, you know, capital investment, or that caused that explosion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I just want to also just clarify. I remember doing a hearing that I hosted with Blonda Williams Brown around this particular issue with the environmentalists. And although this substance may not have been the cause, it definitely contributed to the massive type of explosion that have taken place. And just based upon the testimony of individuals from the building trades, they were pretty comfortable about this ban moving forward. And so I just want to state that for the record, based upon the recommendation from the Refinery Advisory Group, we want to make sure people are safe. And at the end of the day, those individuals who live in that neighborhood, I live on, I'm on TV, I can't say where I live. I live about eight blocks away, you know, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure individuals are safe. And this company that is coming, if they have any additional plans regarding anything energy related, we're going to be paying attention to make sure that they aren't using this substance that can pretty much incinerate our whole city. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President. No bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Down.
Good morning, Council President. No bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President. No bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. I have two privileged resolutions to introduce today, both of which I would like to comment on.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution recognizing and honoring Deborah Gresham, Malik Jones, and Corporal Cheryl Walker as examples of the countless unsung helping hands which lift our African American future up by mentoring and guiding our next generation of African American leaders.
Today's calendar.
And a privilege resolution calling for the Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings to help the city adequately prepare for, avoid, and if needed, mitigate the effect of emergency room and hospital closures as research has shown disparate impacts on patients that are low income and or from communities of color in addition to the loss of jobs.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I first want to speak on the first resolution as it relates to honoring people who paved the way for young people as far as our next generation of heroes. I want to acknowledge the students and the staff that's at MOTEP Charter High School that's here with us today. If you can all just stand for a minute so we can acknowledge you. I want to thank you guys for coming down today and watching your government in action. As it relates to the second resolution, I'm sure that we are all significantly concerned about the hospital closures all across the city, including the one that was recently announced, the possibility of one that was recently announced yesterday. The purpose of this is as we face this epidemic of gun violence across the city of Philadelphia, and it seems we're discussing it and combating it on a daily basis, we also have to look at the impact as far as closing hospitals, specifically those emergency room and those trauma centers, how that impacts our city as a whole, specifically when we have these increased number of incidents and the likelihood of someone unfortunately not being able to be saved because there's no emergency room near them. So this is it's a very important issue, and I look forward to the dialogue around this issue so we can figure out how do we better serve the citizens of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Councilman, and that resolution will be on today's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer one bill.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan Number 359 by relocating the southwesterly house line of Byberry Road approximately 2 feet southwesterly between a point approximately 401 feet northwest of the Roosevelt Boulevard to a point approximately 550 feet further northwesterly therefrom.
Refer to committee, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer one bill today.
Thank you, Councilman.
A non-privileged resolution approving the agreement of sale of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the South Delaware redevelopment area identified by house number and street address as 10 Wolf Street, and authorizing the redevelopment authority to execute the agreement of sale with WW 2400 Wickico owner Number 8, and to take such action as may be necessary to effectuate the agreement of sale.
Thank you. That will be referred to the appropriate committee, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. No bills or resolutions this week.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. Also, no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions for today. We have no reports from committee, so our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. There being no bills on the first reading calendar today, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. Numbers 200121, 200126, 200056, 200042-A, and 200008, and 200015. All other resolutions and bills are being held.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Before we consider these resolutions and bills that are on our final passage calendar, we will have our public comment session. It will go as follows. If you have any interest in testifying on a bill or resolution that is on the final passage calendar today, if you have not already done so, you can sign up at the table to my left. When your name is called, you will go to the podium in the middle of the council chambers. There's a device on that podium. When the light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. And when the light turns red, we would ask that you please adhere to our guidelines and promptly conclude your remarks. Because of the length and the volume of individuals testifying today, we will ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. So please adjust your testimony to reflect that time frame. Thank you very much for your anticipated cooperation. And Mr. Decker, can you please call the first name on the list?
Joe Eastman. Commenting on 200040 and 200006.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joe Eastman. I live in South Philadelphia. I'm a taxpayer. I'm also the son of 2 World War II veterans who actually wore the uniform. In September 1971, I walked up North Broad Street, like many of the veterans in here before me, and went into 401 North Broad, raised my right hand, and went on an adventure for 25 years in uniform, both as an enlisted man and a commissioned officer. Thank you. I only got 2 minutes, guys. I'm opposed to this bill, but let me say this from the outset. I think, Councilwoman, what you've done is noble, and I think that giving these graduates of this program an opportunity is a good thing. I'm opposed to the process of how this has happened. I think some people in here know me. I'm a fairly well-connected vet, and I found out about this kind of happenstance about 12 hours before it went to committee. That's not right. I'm from an era, as you can tell, I'm old. I'm from an era, and some of these, my colleagues are too, where we were spit on, called baby killers, and not welcomed back to the United States. And all we did was what our country asked us to do. I am here to tell you, as long as I have a breath, nobody will take advantage of a veteran again. And I'm not saying that's happened, but it's a lack of respect for us. We don't come and ask for anything. All we ask for is what we earned, because none of us that wore the uniform got a participation trophy. None of us got something because, oh, we couldn't work hard enough to get it, so we want it. No, we had to go out and earn it every day. Somebody gave us 10 preference points somewhere along the line. Okay, I think you got the gist of it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. And thank you for your service.
Nasim Bey. Nasim Bey. Commenting on 200042A.
Morning.
Good morning. My name's Naseem Bey, as y'all already heard. I'm here representing 1PA and the Coalition for Respecting Workers. Now, what I've been thinking is that we should go through with having the independent labor office for the city. Now, I think that because, from what I've been hearing, from what everybody around me tells me, they don't really make ends meet, and then having jobs where you gotta deal with discrimination and deal with inequality doesn't really help at all. So the labor office will help, keep companies and stores in check and keep them doing what they're supposed to, for real, for real.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Marianne Bellasorte.
Hi,
Good morning.
everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. I am Marianne Bellasorte. I am the Vice President of Advocacy at Pathways PA and the National Implementation Director at Family Values at Work. I'm here today to ask you all to vote yes on Bill 200042A, which would create an independent labor office. 5 years ago yesterday, I stood in this room with all of you as you passed the paid sick days bill for Philadelphia. Thank you. It was an amazing day, and since then, Council has gone on to pass even more protections for workers, including the Fair Workweek Law and the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights. Unfortunately, passing legislation isn't enough in Philadelphia or nationally. In my role with Family Values at Work, I see cities and states struggling to make sure that workers know about the laws and that the laws are enforced. Here in Philadelphia, enforcement and education has gotten a lot better around worker protections, but there's still more to be done. Creating an independent Department of Labor will ensure that the laws that you pass actually work and continue to work beyond this administration. I urge you all to vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Mar Edwards. Commenting on 200121.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Council President Clark, Council Member Gilmore Richardson, and members of Council. Special thanks for this resolution, and so we're here to speak in support of resolution number 200121. My name is Mark Edwards. I'm the elected president, or as we refer to the position, bossless of Mu Omega Chapter. Mu Omega Chapter is a graduate chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and we are here in support of the naming of the 1600 to 1700 block of West Jefferson Street as Dr. Oscar James Cooper Way, in honor of the life and legacy of Dr. Oscar James Cooper and his contributions to Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the medical community, and Philadelphia and its citizens. We are joined here today, I don't know if you can see her, by Sheila Simpson Lewis, who is the niece. If she would come forward, she is the niece of our Dr. Oscar James Cooper. In memory of his legacy, Dr. Cooper epitomizes the fraternity's 4 cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. And our organization represents membership of several hundreds of thousands of like-minded men inspired to uphold the very principles of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Dr. Cooper continued his commitment to grow our organization as a charter member, where he served as the first bossless of Mu Omega Chapter, and today I'm honored to follow his legacy as its 48th bossless, with more than 150 men representing various professions throughout the city and region. In closing, to learn more about our organization, I would encourage you to visit our website at www.muteomegaqs.com, learn about some of our programming. In particular, as we speak today, we have launched our scholarship program. So if you have young people, high school students in your councilmatic districts, please channel them to our website. We offer four $1,000 scholarships for 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome.
Roni Bryant Kent.
Good morning, esteemed council, family, and friends. When you live your life around what matters most, it gives perspective to what matters at all. The men of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated 2nd District, the mighty 2nd District. I am the first district representative, first vice district representative that encompasses the states of Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, and of course the great state of Pennsylvania. There's 3 things you need to know about the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and you all will become a member of our family. 1, our 4 founding fathers. Of course, Dr. Oscar James Cooper, Dr. Ernest Everett Just, Bishop Edgar Amos Love, and the scientist Frank Coleman. Number 2, which you heard, our 4 cardinal principles that all Omega men stand by: manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. But the most important thing that makes Omega Psi Phi unique above all fraternal organizations is our motto: friendship is essential to the soul. To family and friends and family, I invite you all to be essential friends of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. On behalf of the 4,000 members of the mighty 2nd District, we stand in support of Resolution 200121. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Nicholas Pinella. Nicholas Pinella.
Next name.
Mike Daly. Commenting on 200006.
Thank you, President Clark and
Good
council
afternoon.
members. My name is Mike Daly. I'm the Executive Director for the Philadelphia Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. I have a very short letter from Terry Williamson, who's President of the fund. Dear Council President Clark and council members, City Council is poised to place on the ballot an ill-advised measure to give graduates of city technical schools a preference for civil service jobs normally afforded to veterans and the children of police and firefighters killed in the line of duty. Its supporters argue it would take nothing away from men and women who earn the preference in the service of their country and this city. That's not true, because it would. Trade school graduates would help deplete the pool of available jobs for veterans. Other politicians would later be tempted to follow with specific groups of their own. A move like this would just be another step, no matter how nobly inspired, to keep eroding support for our veterans. Plus, I think that an argument can be made that, as one supporter of the measure said, the graduates already leave school with in-demand skills, especially that employers want. Sadly, it's not always the same for veterans who are well qualified in so many ways, including men and women, who return from service, but sometimes don't have the skills local employers want. As a Vietnam veteran, I've seen the short shrift my fellow veterans got when they returned home from Vietnam. I was beginning to think this was in the past, but now I'm not so sure. I would urge strongly, Council, to consider your support, or reconsider your support for this bill. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your testimony. Hold on, Mr. Decker, hold on 1 second. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the record, I just wanted to ensure that all the members and stakeholders here today know that resolution number 20040 and bill number 20006 are being held per my remarks at the Committee on the Law and Government hearing, which was held on February 5th. We are having a Committee on Labor and Civil Service next week to address any further concerns relative to those two pieces of legislation. Thank you very, very much. And also, amendments have been circulated prior to the hearing amongst all of my colleagues. They're on your desk, and also they've been circulated via email. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Ms. Decker, call the next name.
Julia Kristen.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Julia Kristen. I'm a registered nurse at Einstein Hospital in the emergency department. I also serve on the executive board of Einstein Nurses United, which is our PASNAP local. PASNAP nurses stand behind this important resolution that Isaiah Thomas and others are presenting to study and mitigate the effects of hospital and emergency room closures. What hospitals like Einstein, Hahnemann, and Mercy have provided is frontline health care to patient populations that are predominantly lower income and predominantly people of color. It does not go without notice that on the tail of Hahnemann's closure, we find ourselves grappling with the potential closure of Mercy Hospital in the heart of West Philadelphia. What we see time and time again in our city are the echoes of the very imperfect foundation of our nation. In the midst of Black History Month especially, we would be remiss to think that we have escaped our past. Enduring legacies of redlining have left Philadelphia one of the nation's most segregated cities and one of the poorest. Hospital closures have profound effects, not only on the communities they serve, but on the larger health service system. Nothing occurs in a vacuum, and the closure of one hospital means increased volumes, wait times, and frustrations at the other overburdened ERs and primary care systems. Patients find themselves having to look for entire new networks, from the logistics of finding an ER that used to be in their backyard to shifting their medical records from a lifetime of care. We can only imagine the stress and upheaval they face. Something is wrong with our healthcare in this country when patients and healthcare workers are constantly fighting for care and resources they need. How is our system so imbalanced that disparities across class lines persist across lines of color? What incentives are we providing when pharmaceutical and insurance companies see windfall profits while patients struggle for equitable access to appropriate care? How will she be judged by society when executives and developers hold more power than our own people in determining healthcare access? As a nurse, I am called to advocate for my patients. Today I'm called and I'm dreaming of a society where all my patients can live in a city where their access to healthcare is determined not by the color of their skin.
Can wrap it up. Thank you.
It was almost done. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony.
Jarrett Smith.
Hello, my name is Jarrett Smith, and I serve as the Government Relations Representative with SDIU Healthcare Pennsylvania, representing more than 45,000 healthcare workers across the state in hospitals, nursing homes, and home care. In a city that boasts its eds and meds, the elimination of Mercy Hospital's inpatient services is a kick in the teeth after the closure of Hahnemann last year. Once again, a facility that provides essential care to Black and brown communities and employs hundreds of workers has fallen prey to the priorities of free market medicine, which prioritizes the wealth of the few over the health of the rest of us. Philadelphians must now realize that these closures are not isolated or one-off events, but are part of larger trends in a healthcare industry that increasingly places profits over patients and where area hospitals, doctors, and specialists are being cannibalized by large integrated delivery networks and multi-state health systems. I applaud Councilmember Thomas for his call to create a working group and analyze the effects of closures that can proactively examine the healthcare crisis facing our city. Working people are tired of shouldering the pain while elected leaders and wealthy CEOs fail year after year to respond to harmful consolidation trends that we have protested for years. It is time for you to act and to invest in healthcare in a way that makes us healthy. We need to bring together voices of patients from low-income communities and communities of color, as well as their caregivers, to demand that the system, largely funded by our taxpayer dollars and insurance premiums, meet our needs. We will only have a truly just healthcare system when the voices of consumers and caregivers carry more power than the interests of executives. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Joe Danahill.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is an official decree of the people and writ mandamus quo warranto, and as such requires immediate action remedy. Every week, council, mayor, governor, and others transfer private property to government, probably unlawfully. Last week, did multiple oath-bound officials testify that they have failed to perform their known duty or task? Did they confess the failure to secure the people's houses, persons, and effects? Was the sheriff decreed to arrest most officials last year? Did the sheriff's failure to perform their known duty or task would have brought significant change? If you do not want to follow your oath to God, why do you run for office, and why aren't you in jail? Can a RICO-style conspiracy to deny rights exist without accessory after-the-fact help from the sheriff? The constitutions require immediate remedy of this breach of law, breach of close, breach of fiduciary duty. Your oath of office requires you to act or face prison. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987, 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 2381, 2384. PA Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 through 28. And other laws listed in SCOTUS 1589-65, 141330, 144056 appear violated. I call on the federal and Commonwealth governments to perform their constitutional obligations to investigate and prosecute all of you involved in the theft and illegal deed transfer of my home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue, the denial of my God-given 42 U.S.C. 1982 property rights for 26 years is egregious, extraordinary, oath-violating, and requires immediate remedy. A just government must obey the rule of law. The color of all government must have its charter to govern revoked until a constitutionally compliant government is installed. Public servants cannot refuse a sworn duty to act any more than a fireman can refuse to fight the fire. I remind council, it takes a lot of cooperation to create and allow all of this monumental corruption each and every week.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Larry Holman. Commenting on 200006 and 200040.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. My name is Larry Holman. I want to say good morning to President Clark and members of the City Council and my fellow veterans and everybody else in the room. Also want to give a shout out to my councilman, Bobby Heenan. Good morning, sir. I'm a Vietnam veteran and a military retiree of the U.S. Navy. I've lived in Northeast Philly since I retired from the Navy in 1982. When I learned of the bill that erodes the hiring preferences currently available to veterans and children of first responders, I wondered why Philadelphia has a Veterans Advisory Commission and why it has a Director of Veterans Affairs. I wondered if advice and counsel was sought from these resources prior to moving forward with such an insensitive measure, which constitutes a slap in the face of veterans. Veterans are among the very small percentage of citizens who have stepped forward and offered their lives when their country needed them. Those who are fortunate enough to survive their training and deployments return to make a transition to civilian life. The reason veterans are given preference, which does not guarantee them a job, by the way, is because they have been away from the job market serving their nation. Thus, they have not had an opportunity to pursue education or technical training to prepare them for employment, nor have they had an opportunity to acquire on-the-job experience in the field they may be seeking to enter. Therefore, please do not diminish the service of veterans to our nation by diluting the value of the employment preference for those veterans. People often thank me for my service, and I often respond, "You are worth it." I mean it when I say that. Every citizen is worth my service to them and the nation. So please take appropriate action to restore my confidence in your sincerity when you thank me for my service. And in your future deliberations on this, some of the questions that should be issued or addressed. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and thank you for your service.
Andy Waskey.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm here as an advocate for veterans. My official name is Anthony
Just state your name
Waskey.
for. No, okay.
Pardon me?
I was just saying, state your name for the record. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, Anthony Waskey, but most of my friends know me by my nickname, Andy Waskey. I am a resident and citizen of Philadelphia, a voter and a taxpayer. And I'm also representing Benjamin Franklin, Post 405 of the American Legion at the Union League, which I serve as an officer, vice commander, and also the Armed Services Council of the Union League. And therefore, through that work with those groups, we work assiduously for veterans who deserve our support and our commemoration. So I'm in favor of a section of the populace, of our citizens, who served and sacrificed, sometimes receiving illness and wounds and maiming, and took orders and did them to the best of their ability, returned home, and did it all for love of country and their duty. I am against eliminating, diminishing, or eliminating or diminution of any of the preference that would be given to the hiring process, so that they should, because of their service, because of their time, because of their loyalty, because of their dedication, they have certainly earned that preference. And so I came here today, and I haven't been here very, very often. I am a historian. I know some of you here because we work with like Lincoln Day at the Union League, Ovicado Day, which is coming up on the 22nd, and all of those were great veterans and deserve our recognition as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, sir, and thank you for your service.
Joe Griffiths.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to the house that the veterans built. We built this building. My name is Joe Griffiths. I'm the host of the Welcome Home Veterans Radio Show. Most of you have been on my show. I'm a big supporter, born and raised in Philadelphia. I want to recommend Councilman Clark. I have a lot of respect for you and Edison Grad.
Thank you.
That we do not initiate a bill till we sit first with our council that was put there in the first place. And I am challenging the 17 council members, of which 16 are not veterans, did not serve their country, to visit the Michael J. Crescents VA Medical Center at 36th and Woodland. Walk in the corridor and see the wheeling chairs, the crutches, the walkers, the canes. Go to the second floor and see the prosthetic department. Next to the prosthetic department is the blind department. We have 485 registered blind veterans. And then go to the 7th floor, the mental health floor, where hundreds of veterans are there to see their psychiatrist, their psychologist, their council worker, their caseworker. They're not there because they want to be there. Most of them are there because they want to be around tomorrow. Why do we ask so few to do so much and in return get so little? In my closing, And there's a gentleman over there laughing. You think it's funny? I guarantee he's not a veteran. In my closing, I'll give you 648 reasons why this bill should not pass. They're the names of the teenagers that went to Vietnam from Dock Street. We're putting a memorial up March 29th, unveiling a memorial. And I guarantee you, most of you don't know this, that 10 veterans died in Vietnam and haven't come home yet. And on the 29th of March, your school, your alma mater, Councilman Clark, we are cutting the ribbon for the 66 condos that the veterans built. They take the veterans off the street of Philadelphia, and our street is loaded with veterans. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for your service.
Patrick McKenna.
Good afternoon.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of council. My name is Patrick McKenna. I was born in Fishtown. I was raised in East Kensington. I raised my family in Southwest Philadelphia in a home that I still own and pay taxes on. I presently live in Darby Borough, and I'm a member and elected council of the Council of Darby Borough. As a combat Marine of the Vietnam War, I strongly oppose Council Bill 200,006 and Resolution 200,004. This is basically, I see it, that I don't feel that any one student should be discriminated against by getting points because they went to a special school. I don't think that, or a certain school, I don't think that students or applicants for employment for civil service jobs within the city should be discriminated against because of the school they went to, the neighborhood they grew up in, the religion they profess, or the color of their skin. I think everybody should be equally treated, and I also appreciate the fact that in this country, veterans get preference for civil service jobs because of the service they have rendered to their country and their fellow citizens and the world. As a member of the council, I sit on a panel that interviews applicants for the Public Works and Police Department. Okay. I think they're valuable. When I think of veterans as valuable assets to these teams because I know that veterans know how to recognize and obey authority, follow rules, wear a uniform, and respect their neighbors and their coworkers. And I also know that they have worked with people of different cultures within the military, and they do it wisely. Thank you for this time.
Thank you for your remarks, sir. Thank you for your service.
Carol Johnson.
Yes, good morning. My name is Daryl Johnson.
Good afternoon.
I am a veteran, as you know, but in addition, I am a retired teacher from the Philadelphia School District. The school that I taught at had the highest number of CTE shops in the district. So when I first seen this resolution, I was a little bit torn because we tell our students to not only work hard to get your academics together, but you can also learn a trade and be self-sufficient, and it can lead you down the road of independence, financial independence. So I was torn because I love my kids and I wanted the best for them. But when I thought about this and I thought about how it was being presented so quickly and with so much lack of information, I was disturbed. It was disturbing to see that this resolution, as loosely as it's written, could open the floodgates to further lobbying to this esteemed body for other groups to receive preferential treatment that was decreed by law for veterans. And this will erode this preferential treatment. I am one who benefited from that when I got out to service in 1974, and I took the apprenticeship test down in the Navy Yard, and I was accepted. And those points helped me get a good job. And it was the same place where my father could not get a job at the Navy Yard. And he served in World War II and brought his family up from the South. He could not get there, get a job in the Navy Yard because of discrimination. I was able to get that. And if it wasn't for this preferential treatment, it wouldn't have happened. So this is not something we take lightly. Just to bring up a group, and I have a lot of respect for CTs, just to bring up a group, it could happen in the future where more and more until it's eroded and it's to the point of being useless and unacceptable for veterans. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your service.
Bob Riley.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for allowing me to come into your home in this important place.
Just state your name for the record.
In the city. Robert Riley, and I am opposing 2006 Resolution 2004. And I'm just going to paraphrase someone who's been in the news a lot lately. And it doesn't mean I support them, but once in a while I hear something, I remember it, and I wait until it fits. And that shoe fits right now. And that's this. Come on, man. Seriously? Now, where do you think I got that? I got a better haircut than he has, right? Every veteran in here, please stand up. If you can't, I want to help you up. Okay? Now, I took the same oath you all took. And that oath, you took it at 401 North Broad, had no expiration dates. None.
Yeah, talking to Mike so we can.
No expiration date, so they're still actively supporting and protecting every single one of you. Every single one of them will take the first bullet. You can't feel safe with 1.3 million active duty of 360 million, but you actually have 15 to 20 million security forces, and they're right here. So I'm going to give them something, and you all should do it too. And it goes like this. I don't need the microphone for this. At ease, be seated. I want to tell you something. June the 1st, 1968,
Yeah, start.
time is up? Okay, I'll buy, somebody else will give me their time. Are you allowed to do that? I watch CNN
No, we
all
gotta.
the time.
Yeah.
Now,
No, we-
Council,
no, we gotta-
Councilman Clark, may I submit that I have 2 minutes from a hero. His brother died in Vietnam, the first one of the Edison 64, November 6, 1965. 63 months later,
let me make
the
sure
last one died January 17th, 1971.
Sir, hold up.
2 minutes for him.
Yeah, but you're taking up his time. So if you're going to let the other gentleman speak.
Anybody want to give me 2 minutes?
No, sir.
Let me
you
know,
gotta
I'll buy it.
No, you got to either you're going to speak, you're going to sit down. If you want him to speak, I'll let him have 2 minutes, but you can't keep talking. Okay? Because you're eating into his time. Did the other gentleman want to speak? Are you okay? All right. Thank you. And thank you all for your service. We genuinely trust us. We really appreciate what you've done. Thank you.
There are
Mr.
no
Decker,
other
is that
speakers.
it?
There are no other speakers, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I anticipate there will be further discussion. Understand, Councilwoman, you have a number of amendments you're going to be working with on them. Thank you. All right, we will now move to our calendar. Mr. Decker, 200121.
A resolution also naming the 1600 to 1700 block of West Jefferson Street as Dr. Oscar J. Cooper Way to honor the life of Oscar James Cooper and his contributions to Omega Psi Phi fraternity and the medical community in the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Mr. President, I enthusiastically call for the adoption of the resolution. Thank you.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Resolution 200121 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 200126.
A resolution also naming East Venango Street between Edgemont and Salmon Streets as Monsignor Joe's Path.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Adoption of resolution,
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution 200126 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, 200056.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise and clarify rules pertaining to prohibited activities of city officers and employees, including restrictions on city officials and employees with respect to political activities, and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Green for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. This issue is an issue that was brought to me by a city employee. We have one of the most restrictive political activity piece of legislation in the country. This legislation, this resolution and accompanying legislation was an attempt to allow city employees to more properly exercise their First Amendment rights. And so we've had conversations with numerous organizations, including staff in the Ethics Board, Committee 70, and others. And this was a compromise piece of legislation to balance both sides in order to provide more opportunity for city employees to participate and use their First Amendment rights. With that, Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. Because resolution number 20056 is an amendment to the Home Rule Charter, it's going to require a 2/3 vote. And Mr. Decker, we're going to call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Dom. Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Green. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Canuna Sanchez. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. 2/3 of all members of council voting in the affirmative, resolution number 20056 has been adopted. Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, 200042A.
A resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for the creation of a Department of Labor and Board of Labor Standards, to provide for the powers and duties of such department and such board, and to otherwise provide for incorporation of the department and board into the city government.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Gim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I want to acknowledge all the workers who came forward today, advocates and others who have lent their voices and their time to working not only on making sure that this bill is the strongest that it can be, but on a host of labor laws that have transformed the rights and protections for workers all across the country. I'm very grateful to my council colleagues. I want to thank Councilman Heenan, who had been working on this bill last term, to our council sponsors, but indeed to to the entire body of council for making it better. And I'd like to also thank the partnership that we've had with the administration and the current Office of Labor. This bill will make permanent a Department of Labor to defend and protect Philadelphia workers, to ensure that we get information out and educate both employees and employers about rights and responsibilities. And we intend this to be a city that really truly upholds the rights of all people. And with that, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted, because resolution, again, number 20042A, is an amendment to the Home Rule Charter. It requires 2/3 vote. Mr. Decker, please call the roll on the resolution.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Dom. Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Green. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Kiruna Sanchez. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Two-thirds of all members of council having voted in the affirmative, resolution number 20042A has been adopted. Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 20008.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of the proposals set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for the creation of a Department of Labor and a Board of Labor Standards, to provide for the powers and duties of such department and board, and to otherwise provide for incorporation of the department and board into the city government, and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice and to make arrangements for the special election.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Dom. Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Green. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Kiruna Sanchez. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 20015.
An ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of a proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise and clarify rules pertaining to prohibited activities of city officers and employees, including the restrictions on city officials and employees with respect to political activities.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks. Councilman Dom. Councilwoman Gauthier. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. Councilman Green. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Kiruna Sanchez. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and honoring Julia Coker for her dedication to the PHL CVB and Philadelphia and wishing her luck on her future endeavors, introduced by Councilwoman Parker.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing the 48th anniversary of Title IX of the Educational Amendment of 1972 and its impact on the growth of women who participated in college sports from 29,972 in 1972 to over 221,000 in 2019. Introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Deborah Gresham, Malik Jones, and Corporal Cheryl Walker as examples of the countless unsung helping hands which lift our African American future up by mentoring and guiding our next generation of African American leaders. Introduced by Councilman Thomas.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution calling for the Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings to help the city adequately prepare for, avoid, and if needed, mitigate the effect of emergency room and hospital closures, as research has shown disparate impacts on patients that are low income and or from communities of color, in addition to the loss of jobs. Introduced by Councilman Thomas.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I again move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is also adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for the day. And speeches on behalf of the minority. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. As I said at the Law and Government Committee hearing, I have a lot of respect and appreciation for Councilman Catherine Gilmore Richardson. Unfortunately, in a democracy, there are times where we just disagree. And this is one of those times. The major issue that has occurred is lack of information. I have tried to inform the veterans community, and they have reached out to me for information. I've tried to ensure that that information is accurate. There is a bill, well-intended, charter change, to try to provide a hiring preference to Philadelphia School District graduates of a career technical school. And at this point in time, the bill has been, or is being amended to offer 5 preference points. But the issue is not solely about the number of points. The issue is that an erosion of the hiring preference for veterans and the children of fallen police officers and firefighters? I think it is. That's why I oppose it in committee, and I oppose it because graduates of career technical schools are very employable, and they do not appear to me to need a charter change hiring preference. There are other ways to assist and help any group in Philadelphia through legislation, tax credits, and other things. What I will say is that I believe that the playing field should always be level. 10 points for one person is 10 points less for everyone else. That includes graduates of community college, our regular high schools, persons with disabilities, returning citizens, recovered drug addicts, and others. 10 points for veterans, to me, that is a merit-based preference. It is for the service and the sacrifice that they have provided, the same as I would see in a... The same as I would see if I was looking at a resume. If someone said they served our nation, I would say that's a plus in character and public good, and I understand that that experience brings with it certain qualities that I appreciate and value. Despite the 10-point hiring preference, our city of 30,000 employees has only 1.8% veterans hired. So despite this 10% preference, our city is very low in terms of the veterans hired. And we have a large population of veterans and a larger population when we include those on the GI Bill that attend our universities. So to me, this is a group that is not only deserving, meritorious, but a group in need. For that reason, although I appreciate, as many expressed, the good intention of the bill, I do oppose it, and I certainly will try to see how there can be a mutually beneficial agreement on how to do this, but from the communications that I have received, I do not see that a charter change preference is the way to address the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Yesterday, the School District of Philadelphia announced that it would be temporarily closing 2 more schools due to asbestos. Clara Barton Elementary in Feltonville and James J. Sullivan in Wissinoming. This brings the total of schools temporarily closed this year to 9. With every closure announcement, families are forced to scramble to find childcare, and they are filled with anxiety about their children's health and safety. And all of this chaos and anxiety, week after week, could be avoided. The district is systematically testing all schools for asbestos, as it does to it will uncover issues, but the district has failed to communicate its testing plan. They could easily inform parents each week of the schools they are testing and a plan that will help if they identify an issue. We all know the schools need funding, and I support the call to declare a state of emergency so that our schools get the funding they deserve. But lack of funding is no excuse for why we cannot make sure that Philadelphia public school students and families are informed. Dr. Height has acknowledged that the district needs a better communication plan, and now I am asking him publicly to create that plan. This failure to communicate continues the history of excluding and traumatizing vulnerable communities. Our kids deserve better, our families deserve better, our teachers and school staff deserve better, and they deserve the better now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And on behalf of the majority, Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. Today has been somewhat interesting. It's always a great opportunity to come into City Council to debate the issues of the day. It was interesting how both my longtime colleague, Councilmember Johnson, and my newer colleague, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, put me in a little bit of a spot today. One had me honoring Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. The other had me honoring Alpha Phi Alpha. But as I was reflecting on those 2 great organizations, and as we are here in February, which is Black History Month, it also had me think about the men that were being honored as part of those acknowledgments today. Christopher Giddens, who was and is the founder of the Young Flames, and Dr. Oscar J. Cooper, one of the founders of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. And also, it made me also think about the hearing we had on Tuesday at Christian Stronghold Baptist Church regarding the Man Up program and some of the anti-violence programs that Solomon Jones is doing and working with others. And so Mr. Giddens, Dr. Cooper, and Solomon are all 3 individuals who have stepped up and basically manned up. As we all know, we have a significant issue in this city of gun violence. And when I looked at the young men who are part of the Young Flames who came up with this music video and this song, and then also reflected on the distinguished men of Omega Psi Phi who are having their 100th anniversary of their chapter here in the city of Philadelphia. It demonstrated that we can step up as either very, very young men like the Young Flames or more seasoned men like the men of Omega Psi Phi, as well as the work that Solomon Jones is doing with the Man Up initiative. And so these are individuals, some who are no longer with us and some who are very young, really exhibiting all the means and the thoughts and reflections behind Black History Month. And so I just wanted to make that point today as we continue to deal with the issues of gun violence and public safety in our city. We need more men to man up, especially in the African American community, and follow the leadership of Christopher Giddens and the Young Flames, Solomon Jones, as well as Dr. Oscar J. Cooper and the men of Omega Psi Phi. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. And you all did an awesome job the other night. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez.
Thank you. I feel compelled to also stand up and congratulate my colleagues and the work of Solomon Jones and all of the folks who came out to the hearing the other night. I was happy to join Councilman Green, Councilman Johnson, and Jones as they navigated this conversation, and we were joined by Councilwoman Brooks, Gautier, Gilmore Richardson, and Dom. Yeah, we had a council quorum, and it was a very important conversation. In a couple of weeks, you know, the mayor will give us a list of folks in the school district, and I'm reminded of the conversation around representation, in particular, representation of black men on that board. And so I look forward to receiving that list from the mayor and engaging in that conversation. Tuesday night, I listened intently, and I appreciated the candor and the passion and the conviction, not only of Solomon Jones, but the many men who stood up and shared their stories. As always, I was inspired by the black men who came not just to talk about the problem, but to really, as Councilman Green put it, man up, stand up, and be part of the solution. And the conversation was very productive because everyone came forward to talk about what they were doing, how they were doing, and their commitment to do more. I came away feeling very hopeful as we talk about and we welcome our new commissioner as the councilmen talk about gun violence. But it was not just about talking about it, but real solutions and real strategies. They challenged us, and I look forward to part two, because Council President, they challenged us in council as their leaders and their representatives to invest in people, the people doing the work on the ground. In the next few weeks, we'll begin a budget process. That budget should be a moral document that reflects the values and how we prioritize people in the city of Philadelphia. I know you're committed to this and the work that we continue to do around poverty, because at the root of all of this is the generational poverty that exists. But Tuesday night, I was the most hopeful I've been in a long time, that if we invest in people, the people doing the work on the ground, we can do much better for our neighborhoods. Thank you, Council President Clark.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the daughter of the deceased James William Gilmore, who is an Army veteran who served a tour of duty in Korea, I feel compelled to speak up and out regarding the legislation that I introduced. Service testing preference to students who graduate from a career and technical education program in Philadelphia. And on February 5th, 2020, a committee hearing was held for one of the bills and resolutions in the Law and Government Committee, specifically around placing the question before the qualified electors regarding this upcoming election for them to decide if they want us to have a preference. There was a second bill introduced in that package that was also referred to the Labor and Civil Service Committee, which that committee hearing has not been held yet and has been scheduled for February 18th, 2020. However, since the Law and Government hearing, when a number of issues and questions, comments, and concerns were raised, my team and I have done the following. We have met with several organizations and individuals to discuss challenges and concerns relating to the legislative package. On Monday, February 10th, 2020, we met with Carlo Aragoncila, Lloyd Remick, Anthony Boyle, George Ginder, and others from the Philadelphia Veterans Advisory Commission, and corresponded with other veterans groups that we were aware of. And all the veterans groups that are here today, we are currently receiving their information so that we can be in close contact with them as we move forward in this process. On Tuesday, February 11th, we met with the firefighters and the FOP. And we are continuing with additional meetings with DC 33 and 47 later on today. So we do intend to continue to listen to concerns that have been raised prior to the hearing, which is why all of my colleagues received a copy today on their desk and via email of the steps that we have taken since the Law and Government Committee hearing, as well as some of the proposed amendments that we will introduce at the Labor and Civil Service hearing. Over the past several years, the School District of Philadelphia, obviously with the support of Philadelphia City Council, has made significant investments in our career and technical education programs as we continue to figure out a way to create pathways and pipelines to employment for our young people in the city of Philadelphia. I contend that we cannot continue to ask our business community to do more with creating workforce development opportunities if we're not doing more ourselves from the perspective of the city of Philadelphia. Also, this legislation, the way it's currently written, would not take anything away from a veteran. A veteran would still receive their 10-point preference on the civil service examination. It just adds that a graduate of a career and technical education program would receive a preference because they do have over 1,080 work hours of skill training for specific trades. Mr. President, I also respectfully disagree with anyone who intentionally spreads false information for their personal benefit. And I will not allow that to occur with any legislation that we're working on, because we are working hard to address the comments and concerns of everyone that we're working with. And I look forward to continuing to work with the community as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Mr. President, our new members are just really making me so happy with the substance of the work that they are proffering in this body. It's very encouraging. I just wanted to comment quickly on the record as chair of the Committee on Law and Government. I wanted to say a special thank you to Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson for the very methodical and intentional efforts put forward in the process to ensure that all stakeholders associated with the legislative package that she was sponsoring would have their voices heard. And during that hearing, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, I think you noted that you were continuing to meet with more and more stakeholders about questions or concerns regarding the legislation. And I just wanted to specifically, for the benefit of those who are in this chamber and at home who are watching, there is nothing more credible than a public servant and an elected official who does their homework and ensures that any entity that is impacted by legislation being proffered has the opportunity to have their voice heard. And it takes a whole lot of work and it takes a whole lot of time, and people don't usually see that part, but I wanted to commend you, Councilwoman, for that work. I also wanted to say a special congratulations, and it really is in order, for Councilman Green, members Johnson and Jones regarding the Man Up PHL hearing at Christian Stronghold. While I was not able to attend the hearing due to some long-standing familial commitments, I want to thank you for making sure that you got the people on the ground in the room. I was texting members of council while it was going on, letting them know that I was watching it. But the idea that there is no silver bullet. Anybody running around this city, Mr. President, telling you that they have the sole solution to reducing poverty or addressing gun violence is really selling a dream. The complexities associated with how we get there, I think will include the body of work that this council produced during the last session, what we've been working on this session, and what will come out of it in the future, while partnering with many of the organizations who presented at the hearing that was held. So again, I want to say a huge thank you to Solomon Jones, all members of Man Up PHL, the sisters who are working hard to support them, for the record. You know, reminds me a little bit of like civil rights. You know, we saw the guys, Abernathy and King and some others up front, but you know, in order for anything like that to be successful, they were going to be some women in the background. So kudos to those who are getting the work done, but they are just not being seen and or heard. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Council President. As you have heard, Mercy Hospital in West Philadelphia is facing the closure of its inpatient and acute care services, along with its emergency room. The loss of these services could have a dramatic and detrimental impact on the ability of West and Southwest Philadelphians to access medical care in our city. To give you an idea, in 2018, Mercy Philadelphia Hospital had near 7,700 admissions and 48,000 visits to the emergency department. That means thousands of people will now have to travel further away and wait longer to see a doctor when they are experiencing an emergency. Mercy serves as a vital healthcare option for many poor and working class people in the 3rd District. And like many struggling urban hospitals, its patients are a mixture of those on Medicaid, those on Medicare, and the uninsured. Its closure is reminiscent of the closure of Hahnemann last year and the closure of St. Joseph's in North Philadelphia in 2016. Both struggling urban hospitals serving mostly Black and brown communities in Philadelphia. But Black and brown communities are entitled to high-quality health care and to fair treatment by our healthcare system. And hospital workers are entitled to fair treatment as well. 900 people work at Mercy Philadelphia, and many of them are members of my community as well. Last night, I heard from one employee who is worried sick. She has a child in school, bills to pay, and no sense of when the hospital is closing or what it means for her job or the patients in her care. She heard of the news through the press. Mercy's workers deserve to be cared for and respected through this process, and my office will be watching this situation closely. I ask that Mercy Hospital be transparent about its plans and communicate proactively with City Council and the public as things develop. I also ask for our city's other healthcare providers to step up and help meet the critical needs that will be created by this loss. And I look forward to working with my colleagues on council and in the administration on a path forward for partnering with our remaining urban hospitals in this difficult landscape and for providing equitable health care to everyone in our city. Our citizens deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President.
Welcome.
First, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues and thanking Councilman Green and Jones, and I had the opportunity to participate with them, my other colleagues, regarding the Man Up PHL initiative, because truly, if we're going to reverse the tides of gun violence that we're seeing in the city of Philadelphia, it's not only going to take elected officials to be a part of the solution, it's going to take the community to step up to the plate in addressing such a critical issue. I had the opportunity yesterday to meet with a group of advocates who have lost their lives who have family members who have lost their lives to gun violence, who have also been co-victims of gun violence. And I thank my colleagues for joining me in that discussion. But the sole purpose of working with victims and survivors of gun violence is to make sure that their voices don't become lost in this conversation, because ultimately they're the ones who are severely impacted. And so we're going to be making sure that they have a seat at the table regarding how we're being supportive of their efforts. We do have a hearing that's going to take place in this council chambers next Thursday, February the 20th, after council session at 1 p.m. And it's strictly around survivors, victims, and co-victims of gun violence. We address issues of notification of family members when the perpetrator who have caused the murder are released back out on the street. How do we address that issue? It was you, Council President, a couple budget sessions ago, addressed our former police commissioner on the homicide clearance rate. And what are we doing to make sure that we're apprehending those who are committing these murders? At that time, the clearance rate was somewhere around 14%. After we established the Special Committee on Gun Violence, it has increased somewhere around, to date, 48%, which shows the progress that this body was able to achieve based upon us being proactive and making sure all of the law enforcement agencies are talking to one another and making sure they have the necessary support in addressing this issue. And so the hearing will be an opportunity for us to get recommendations and, most importantly, provide a platform for those who are most severely impacted by this issue. And again, that's going to be in this council chambers, February the 20th at 1 p.m. On a lighter note, we won't have a chance to see one another until next Thursday, so happy Valentine's Day, everyone. In the southwest part of my district, at Myers Recreation Center, this evening from 5 to 9, we will have our annual Sweethearts Ball. And so to all those who are watching, who are listening, you must be from the southwest part of my district to be able to attend this event this evening. Hopefully you are signed up. But if you haven't and you're just hearing about it today, you're more than welcome to come, participate in our bop contest, watch me do the electric slide, the cha-cha, all that, those dances that, our, folks taught us, our other folks taught us, our own seasoned folks taught us to do. And so we look forward to having a good time. Derek Green could dance, y'all. I just want to state that for the record. He gets it in. And so, and my colleagues, if you want to come past and just mix and mingle with some of the best constituents out in Southwest Philadelphia, you're more than welcome to stop past. That's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Myers Recreation Center, and just to have a good time. So with that being said, thank you, everyone, and everyone have a blessed weekend.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a packed church at Christian Stronghold Baptist Church on Lancaster Avenue in West Philadelphia, over 450 people came out and were very concerned about the state of emergency that we have in our city. What I think is very notable about the dialogue and discussion and exchanges in Man Up was it was balanced. Talked about people who were victims of crime, and the fact that some of them, I mentioned a gentleman that all of you know, I'm going to spare his family his name, but had lost not one son, not two sons, but now a grandson to gun violence. That is a real thing that has to be balanced with the fact that we want to do criminal justice reform. Because both, it's not a question of or, it is a question of and. We want to do both of that. The second thing that I think was recognized was that the fact that the closure rate for murders and gunshots needs work. We have to deal with issues like no snitching cultures, and one person said that if you're lucky, you might get an enthusiastic detective that really wants to solve your individual issue in crime. That has to be a balanced approach, that all life is precious and all tears are important. Closure is a real thing for a lot of these families, and if you do so, can curtail some of the back and forth violence that we actually experience. The other thing that we cannot ignore, based on those comments, was the poverty rate, that some people feel trapped within their kind of environment. I met a young person that said
they had never been 10 blocks outside their neighborhood. The only time they came downtown was to go to court or to get a pair of sneakers. We have to change the reality of people's generational deep poverty, and we're going to deal with that. And it's not a question of or, it's a question of and we're going to handle that. As we look at the budget coming up, we need to take that as an opportunity to figure out, as was said, the pieces of the puzzle that will create the solution. It's not one thing, it's many things working together and coordinating. We're going to look for those opportunities. And ultimately, we have a new piece of that puzzle with Commissioner Outlaw. And she's done some of her homework in the 3 days of getting around, talking to the rank and file, and eventually we will get an opportunity to exchange ideas and to exchange perspectives, to take something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Some of the old situations we have in Philadelphia, some new ideas that she may bring, new perspective, and the blue force that we have to work with, called the police force, because we cannot do this by ourselves. So I was thankful to Solomon Jones. I told him that not since the Million Man March have I been that optimistic about possible solutions for inner city communities. So the proof is in the pudding. We have a couple of months worth of budget before us, and we need to see how we can incorporate some of those solutions from things like Councilperson Thomas talked about summer jobs and how it's easier to get a job in council than get a summer job for a kid. We have to address a lot of those things in coordination to address anti-violence. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Normally, our rules prevent us from speaking about pending legislation. Since that didn't happen today, and there's already been 3 speakers, I will add my words to it. Dealing with the veterans preference, CTE preference proposal, a couple of things I think should be noted. I'm on both law and government and labor and civil service, where the companion bill is. One, there are many preferences in the city for testing. There are many civil service tests. They are all, to my understanding, and we should get more familiar with them because they're not mandated in the charter, but they're part of our system. They're targeted to the qualifications or special expertise that the training, whatever it may be, that particular individual would have. It doesn't exist here. Someone who is taking a certain course in the CTE program, if they were getting preference, and we can argue whether it should be 3 or 5, I think 10's off the table now, so I heard. There's a purpose to it that is clear. If you were trained in electrical and there's an electrical test involving electrical training, it's great. It would be great to be able to give preference for that. But there's many, many tests that training, whether it be in electrical or plumbing or whatever it might be, soldering, which is a big need out there. That makes all kinds of sense. We wouldn't have to do it. I think it'd be pretty easy to convince the administration to add this to that list. But it would be for the specific test that applies to your training. And I think that is something that, I know it's something that doesn't exist here, and it's something that should be part of anything with our CTE program. Otherwise, you take a CTE program and you're an average student, and somebody has studied, finished the top of their class, near the top of their class, they don't get preference. And their education in our system, in our high schools, may be much more important to that job than the qualification of someone getting vocational training and getting a 3-point preference, where the other person is a very good student, doesn't. So there's an unfairness there, I believe. That's pretty clear. Secondly, if you look at the charter provision and what's being amended here, it says, and it's very short, after the veterans and the legacy applicants whose mother or father were killed in the line of duty, that you're adding any qualified graduate of a career technical education program in the school district of Philadelphia. Well, I believe that the average voter, and considering myself an average voter, I would assume that what I just talked about was tying that training to the test that they'd be getting a preference in is a fair inference that someone would make. So I don't think that it says enough for a voter to make a conscious, intelligent decision about whether to vote yes or no. Lastly, this does hurt veterans and legacies. Legacies don't have an organization like the veterans. Veterans have spoken very clearly. If I give someone in a test that veterans get 10 points on, and this is every test, because this does not target anything. So veterans and legacies, whether it be police, fire, or all the other civil service tests, the civilian test, they get 10 points. They know that people get 3 in certain tests if they have certain qualifications. However, this would effectively reduce the veterans and legacy benefit to 5 points. Because if a veteran or a legacy is taking a test and competing with somebody who took a CTE class and got the 1,000 hours, whatever, they eventually only have 5 points against in the competition with that person. So there is actually a reduction and a diminution of the veteran's preference. When it counts, that's the only time it counts in this situation, is when they are competing with someone from a CTE class. And while we may have issues in our uniform testing, how many applicants we get and how many people are in a certain class, there's myriad reasons for it. We should know all about them. We should have testimony from the police department, the fire department, as to why our numbers may not be what we think they should be. This is not the answer to it. The answer is to deal with the underlying problems and seeing if they can be solved. This has no connection to solving that problem. And I don't think that a veteran taking a police and fire test should have to compete, or any of the other tests, with anyone who has no qualifications for that job. And then that'd be most of the test. If you had a specific training in a CTE program, that they should have their 10 points now be reduced to 5 when they're competing with people that are being proposed to, applicants that are being proposed to get to 5 points now in this legislation. But someone spoke about the open-endedness of this, and believe me, if somebody's voting on this, they're going to vote on this ballot question. As I said, I think there's already a fair inference that there is a targeting for this. Why would you be separating out some high school students from all the high school students? But if you take this a step further, there's other ways of dealing with this. And I know this was done in a hurry. You can't get around that. People that are affected by this found out 2 days before. That's not a lot of time. It wasn't vetted with our Veterans Advisory. There's a whole lot of things going on here. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time. But you pull back and you say, hey, we need more time on this. We got to think this through more. We got to bring the mayor in. Maybe the mayor's willing to do this tomorrow, not wait for a charter change, and we'll see how it works. Hopefully it would be targeted, and we'll see what the end result is. So I do think that this isn't legislation that we should be offering false information or anything about, but I do think there's an underlying problem, particularly in the uniform classes, testing, and we haven't heard a word from the police department or fire department about why those numbers are lower than people think they should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. First, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. It's coming up tomorrow. And second, I just wanted to bring up this time of year, we're heading towards the earned income tax credit issues. And I'm a little troubled because I just found out that our numbers are going in the reverse direction. We now have 45,000 people in the city of Philadelphia who are not applying for the earned income tax credit. Over $113 million of federal money is being left on the table just in the earned income tax credit. Just to give you the power of this, a single parent with 2 children under the age of 17 can get checks up to $6,400, or a couple with 2 kids under the age of 17 earning $51,000, single parent earning $44,000 can get up $6,400. You can file back 3 additional years. So we're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about $25,000 for the max. The average credit is $2,500, but you can still get $10,000 by filing back 3 additional years. Now this $113 million comes out of everyone's paycheck. It's called federal withholding tax. And if we don't make sure that the residents of this city get this money, in many ways, it's a transfer of wealth out of Philadelphia to Washington, and it's terrible for our residents not to get this money. On the big scale, we're talking about on this chart from Benefits Data Trust, you're familiar with this, because I know we're on this case, $463 million in federal money. Between earned income tax credit of $113 million, food stamps, $100 million, with 67,000 people not getting their money, medical assistance, Medicaid, 40,000 people not getting Medicaid, over $230 million. Then you have other programs like prescription assistance and property tax and rent relief. And so Councilman Jones and Councilmember Johnson and Councilmember Green, I was there Tuesday night, and I thought you all did a great job, by the way, a really good job. And there was other members there too. But maybe what we should do in these future round 2, we should ask maybe somebody from Benefits Data Trust to set up a table with a computer, and those 450 people who came in, make them aware of these programs, and if they don't qualify, tell them to tell 10 people about it, and we should tell 10 people about it. And to the press, we need you to do a public service announcement about all these benefits. This is too important for us not to ask the press to help us get this word out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. More to come. Okay, that concludes our speeches today. And with that, I would like to recognize Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, February 20th, 2020 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. It is moving properly second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, February 20, 2020, 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes carried. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.